Hi, my name is Nina Kalefi. I am a patient care assistant at CKHA, but I was also a patient. This is my story. I am not a doctor or a nurse. I don't make a nurse's wages. I don't have as many years of schooling. I don't start and stop IV fluids and medications, or have the power to prescribe or discontinue tests and meds. But let me tell you, my colleagues and friends, that I have seen and experienced so many things over the past 3 years. Things that I can't even begin to describe. And a story such as this would not do the justice that these stories so deserve, so I won't even begin to try. However, I can completely relate to the patients that come to our units who are in a critical situation, life hanging in the balance, and what that looks like in terms of good patient care. A call bell answered within seconds of it ringing, a warm blanket, a hand to hold while an IV is being started, someone to talk to when family isn't available, a promise that you will be back before the end of your shift, a shower after laying in bed for a few days, a glass of ice water for a family member who has been sitting with their loved one for many hours on end. All of these things seem minuscule in nature, but as a patient, I remember so vividly the impact that these actions have on a person. I was 30 years old when my health took a turn. What started off as a pesky migraine turned out to be life-threatening encephalitis. I remember the night I was admitted into the unit, and the way that I felt when I was being prepared for my stay. I think sometimes as healthcare professionals, things such as collecting specimens and hooking people up to monitors become second nature, and we lose sight of the fact that these are people we are dealing with. People who have dignity and feelings and emotions. And as a patient, you very oftentimes feel powerless over your health. It's hard to be in a situation where you are 30 years old and allowing people full access to your body in order to get well again. Back when I was a patient in the unit, they did not have such a thing as a patient care assistant. I remember lying there for hours alone, wondering what would happen next. The nurses checked in frequently, of course, and in the morning I felt as though I was well attended to. Doctors making his rounds, pharmacist and charge nurse at the door with their cart looking in at me lying in bed. I think when you are in a situation like I was, communication is key, but so is compassion. And sometimes that extra minute to explain what is happening makes a large difference. I didn't have the comfort of having someone there with me while I was awaiting a diagnosis that may or may not change my entire course. I think it's important to remember that although we have family that come and go and try their best to smile and assist in making this road a little easier, there is nothing like a healthcare professional taking the time to sit for a moment, even if it is just a moment, and reminding the patient that you are not just another employee here, you are a person too. I remember the feeling of lying in bed at night, not only suffering from a physical illness, but from clinical depression as well. It was lonely and dark, and I will never forget the way it felt to lie there at night after night, listening to nothing but the beeping of a downstream occlusion somewhere, and the chatter of the night nurses at the desk, speaking of their vacations and marriage problems. Normal workplace chatter to be expected, but the conversations made me ache for normalcy and home. Sometimes it's the little things. Sometimes we forget they can hear. When I was healthy enough to leave the ICU and moved on to a different floor, it was a jumble of emotions. You would think that leaving intensive care to go to a medical floor would be a happy time. But for me, it was the scariest day of my life. I didn't know what to expect. What if I became sick again and I didn't have these fantastic nurses who are educated in critical care to care for me? What if people don't know what to do? Do I really need to begin again and tell everyone my story and why I am here and how it became that I am a 30-year-old mother who is depressed and so sick? Not only were those things running through my head, but the loss of time as well. To be honest, when you are in the hospital, time doesn't exist in the same way that it does outside the door. Minutes and hours and days, they run together. And when the nurse asks you, what day is it? And your answer isn't what they would expect, You can't always take that as a sign of confusion, because the stay is the stay, and sometimes that's just the way it is. I will never forget the loss that I felt as I walked out that door. The loss of time, the loss of my dignity, the loss of time with my 6-month-old son. It has been 3 years since I was discharged from the Chatham-Kent Health Alliance, and oddly enough, I have 3 years in as an employee as well. I still suffer from the effects of encephalitis. As an employee, I probably have a bit more sick time than I should, and the clinical depression still rears its ugly head, and it's a battle I fight every day. I have suffered emotionally, physically, and financially, but to be honest, that just makes me that much more passionate about working in the critical care and progressive care units. And when I have a patient that says, "You just don't understand," I can genuinely say yes. Yes, unfortunately I do. And that makes my job as a patient care assistant all very much worthwhile.